Good evening, councillors and officers, and those watching from home. Welcome to the January meeting of Corangamite Shire Council. Can I begin with the prayer? We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past and present. I'd like to introduce councillors with us this evening. I'll start with Councillor Jamie Vogels, Councillor Joe Beard, Deputy Mayor Geraldine Conheady, Councillor Kate Macon, Councillor Laurie Hickey and Councillor Mick Cole, our CEO Andrew Mason, our Director of Sustainable Development Justine Lindley, and we have two officers with us this evening. Jarrod is the Manager of Facilities and Recreation, and Belinda Bennett is Acting Planning and Building Manager. So welcome everybody this evening. Mr CEO, we have no apologies. I believe we have a declaration of conflict of interest.
Yes, that's correct. I've got one declaration of conflict of interest from Councillor Cole in relation to item 8.1, which is the planning item.
Thank you. And confirmation minutes, Councillor. Minutes have been circulated. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move the minutes, please? Councillor Hickey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Any further comments or questions on the minutes, councillors? All in favour? Carried. Mr CEO, deputations and presentations. We have a deputation this evening.
Yes, we do, Mayor, which I gave you before. So it's in relation to the planning item. It's Miss Joanne Priest, and she's speaking on behalf of the applicant. So make your way to the lectern.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to address Council in relation to this planning permit application. I've read the officer recommendation and fully supportive of the report and recommendation made. This is a purpose-built non-permanent fuel pod and it will minimise any adverse environmental effects and it is not dissimilar to those used for personal use by farmers in the area. The area of the site used for the fuel pod is not currently used for agricultural production and located in a vicinity with other supporting farm infrastructure, including silos and shedding. That's consistent with the requirements of the farming zone in that productive agricultural land is not taken away for other non-agricultural purposes, although this fuel pod could be considered as an adjunct to agricultural activity in the area. Access to and from the site and movement on site will be one way, reducing potential conflict points. The Department of Transport were consulted with works undertaken as directed by department officers. In addition to this, the department are supportive of the proposal, including the location and specifications of the crossovers. I believe that after the application was made that the Department of Transport was referred the information and again was supportive and provided proposed permit conditions if council was in a mind to issue a planning permit. The objectors' concerns were responded to in writing with a further opportunity to attend an on-site meeting with councillors and planning staff. Unfortunately, the objector did not attend as we'd hoped to further explain the proposal to them and alleviate any concerns that they may have. I believe that the proposal can be supported by various planning policies as outlined in the officer report, including the municipal planning strategy, which aims to support the diversification of agriculture, support activities that provide a service function for the agricultural industry, and facilitate infrastructure that supports agricultural use and growth in the sector. That proposal can further be supported by Local Policy 14011 relating to the protection of agricultural land, by way of the proposal not prejudicing the continued productive use of agricultural from the land. We respectfully request that Council support the planner's report and resolve to adopt the recommendation as tabled. I do believe that there does need to be some changes to the recommendation due to changes last Thursday in the name of the road zone Category 1 road. Now it's a transport corridor or something, so that's, I suppose it's just a technical term. It really, I believe the provisions are exactly the same, so you know that's something that the councillors will need to consider when they make their judgment on the application. I appreciate the time to be able to come down and address you, and thank you for the support that I've been given throughout the application process. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Ms Priest. Councillors, we'll now move on to planning reports, and item 8.1 is planning permit application. Oh, I beg your pardon, Councillor Cole, you have a conflict of interest in this item, so I'll ask you to leave the chamber, please. Thank you. Planning permit application PP 2021158, the use and development of land for fuel depot, display of business identification sign and creation of access to a road zone Category 1 at 140 Lismore, Skipton Road, Lismore. Ms Bennett, could you introduce this item, please?
Thank you. I present the council with the report for planning application PP 2021158. The application seeks planning approval for use and development of a fuel depot and associated business identification sign and access at 140 Lismore, Skipton Road, Lismore. The land is currently used for agriculture and is approximately a kilometre west of the Lismore Township boundary. The application proposes to establish a fuel depot with a 68,000 litre capacity above-ground tank located in the southwest portion of the site, which will be on the corner of the Hamilton Highway and Lismore Skipton Road. It's proposed that the facility would operate as a pay-as-you-go facility with payment of firefighter owners, and there'd be no personnel on site, and the facility would be accessible 24/7, primarily 17 vehicles and agricultural vehicles. It's proposed that there would be access points established on the Lismore Skipton Road and the Hamilton Highway, providing a one-way entry-exit into the site. And it's also proposed that the application would establish a 3 by 1 metre business identification sign on the fuel tank. Notice of the application was given, and council received one objection to the application, which raised issues including road safety, noise, and provision of fuel outlets in the local area, and these issues are addressed in the plan approval. The planning assessment finds the proposal should be supported. The proposal will provide an acceptable response to the municipal planning strategies and the planning policy framework which seeks to protect agricultural land and support commercial uses that serve and support the agricultural sector. The siting and design minimises impacts to productive agricultural land and will not have an adverse impact on the surrounding landscape and the agricultural. The application was prepared by the Department of Transport and Roadways, and neither agency objecting to the granting of the planning permit subject to conditions. Specific conditions have been included in the recommendation to address issues such as design standards for the construction of access points and landscaping for visual amenity. And the recommendation for council is to issue a decision for the permit. However, noting that there's a minor amendment to this recommendation, as Jarrod alluded to, relating to a recent planning team amendment, which I believe councillors were forwarded prior to the meeting, but I have hard copies if anyone does need a copy of that. Essentially, the amendment to the recommendation relates to the planning team amendment, which essentially replaces Corangamite with the transport zone. So the change to the recommendation simply replaces the term road zone Category 1 with transport zone 2, with no further changes to the proposed conditions.
Thank you, Ms Bennett. Councillors, does everybody understand the changes that have been made to these conditions? There is a recommendation there. If someone would like to move the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Beard. I have a seconder? Councillor Nathan? Councillor Beard?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and I'm happy to move the recommendation, obviously with the amended wording, and thank you for those changes that we received earlier today. I appreciate first and foremost the fact that we're able to have a planning inspection at the start of January when obviously everyone's usually away on holidays, but I appreciate Ms. Priest for your time on the day that you're able to meet us there and obviously go over this particular permit application, and then first and foremost the concerns, if there was any questions that we raised on the day, so thank you for that. My concerns were mainly around access to the site, which Department of Transport have indicated they don't have any concerns with, and I was reassured what I had raised had been clarified, so I appreciated that feedback. I guess we can't disregard that works had been begun prior to a permit being lodged, which is never a good thing to get off on that foot, but we appreciate the fact that community come forward and then we've been able to work for a way forward through this process. So I'm certainly satisfied with the recommendations that have been put on, that has been put into this project and this application, and fully support that. So I actually think it's going to be a great fit. Even when we were standing there, we could see the amount of large trucks that were coming and going from that particular area of our shire. And I can see that it will be well utilised, and the fact that we have seen these type of sites, pop-up sites in other areas, and they do work well and service the agriculture service industry particularly well. I think that's a really positive. So I think hopefully it'll be a really great fit for that northern part of our shire.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Nathan?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The location of the fuel tank is in the southwest corner of the site and limits any impacts on the productive agricultural land while providing a service and supporting the wider agriculture sector. Landscaping will be needed to help soften the appearance of the proposed development and help blend in with the surrounding area. This landscaping will also help soften the business identification sign, which is 3 metres square in size and which is not having any lighting. The application was referred to Department of Transport, who are the statutory referral authority for the application. They do not have object to the granting of the permit subject to conditions. This includes construction and designs, standards for the new access crossovers. Vehicles will not be allowed to enter the site from the Hamilton Highway, and vehicle movements must be confined to one way through the site to ensure vehicles can enter and exit in a forward direction. This application is being constructed on an already noisy intersection with trucks and cars slowing down for the current intersection. Yes, granted, there may be a slight increase in traffic, but I feel this will be minimal and the permit holder will have to ensure they comply with the EPA noise guidelines. The applicant, as Councillor Beard said before, did start works before getting the proper council approval and everything else in order, but so I would just remind people out there who are looking to do works to contact the planning department and have a chat to them to see whether any permits are required before you do start any works on your land or wherever it may be. So in the end, we are not delaying works for you or anyone else. So I'm happy to support this application with the 12 conditions that have been placed on it, and I'm happy to support this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nathan. Is there anything further, councillors? I'll put this to the vote. All in favour? It's carried. Grab Councillor Conheady. Thank you. Councillors, we'll now move on to officers' reports, and 9.1 is the application of the Common Seal of Council in 2021. Mr Mason.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This is largely a procedural matter. The Common Seal, or the Council Seal, is used under delegation for a variety of legal documents, and the governance rules require that the usage of the seal be reported to Council on an annual basis. So there is an attachment with all the documents that have been used or the seal has been applied to over the last year. It's also recommended and contained in the recommendation that Council authorise me to continue to use the seal as it has been done for a number of years. So the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Councillors, someone prepared to move that recommendation? Councillor Conheady, do I have a seconder? Councillor Hickey? Councillor Conheady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually don't really have anything to say to this recommendation. I think it's all there before us, and as the CEO described it adequately, so just merely to say that I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Conheady. Councillor Hickey, did you have anything?
No, nothing to add. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.2 is the Recreation Facility Development Policy. Mr Woff, could you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The Recreation Facility Development Policy provides a framework by which Council will consider requests for grants to assist with sport and recreation facility development and the responsibilities of any group that receives funding. There are a number of facilities throughout the Corangamite Shire that contribute to the provision of sport and recreation. These facilities are recognised as important assets that encourage broad community use, events and economic activity. The policy has been reviewed with only minor amendments recommended. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Woff. Councillors, recommendation to revoke the previous policy and adopt the new policy. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Makin. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Councillor Makin.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This policy provides framework for the Council to consider requests for grant funding for capital projects at sport and recreation facilities across the Shire to ensure a consistent approach and to ensure the Corangamite Shire continues to provide and maintain high quality sports and recreation facilities. It is the requirement for any projects to be clearly defined and for detailed project planning undertaken, such as a detailed design and quotation for cost of works. It is important to have facilities that support a healthy and active lifestyle for our community and improving the health of our residents. Any projects and requests for grants will have to demonstrate a need, whether for a facility upgrade or for renewal, sports development outcomes and community demand. And as much as we are overhearing about COVID, now more than ever, our sports and recreation facilities play a huge role in promoting a sense of community, social inclusion and community wellbeing, as this is something we've all missed out in the last couple of years. So I'm more than happy to support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Makin. Councillor Cole, do you have something further?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't got a lot to say, just to say that sport is very important for health and wellbeing of the community, and we've got to keep up with it and keep all sporting clubs going as strong as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillors, further comments on this item? Councillor Conheady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. There's just one thing I just wanted to make a point of in relation to our recreation facilities when the committee's looking to apply for grants, is that we do actually have a lot of our recreation facilities on Dwell-owned land. So the assets obviously on that land are owned by Dwell, and it is quite a challenge for the committees that run those facilities to apply for grants, because they are required to develop very, very detailed plans, which are very, very costly, and unfortunately they don't get support from Dwell to manage those facilities, or any support from Dwell to upgrade them either. So they have a barrier really from the outset, just with the application process, and it can cost up to $20,000, I understand, to prepare the plans that are required. So we have, as a council, we have advocated to the state government to provide some financial support to our recreation facilities, to the committees rather, that are running those recreation facilities owned by Dwell, to help them just get through that first stage, to be able to even sort of just get off the starting blocks in terms of applying for grant funding. So we really hope that the state government hears that message, and that they do think about providing that financial assistance to our recreation facilities so that they get an opportunity to upgrade them, because most of them are in a state where they desperately need to be upgraded or renewed, just to make them, to get them to a stage where they meet the standards that are expected by the community and by the state government as well. So I do hope that that message is heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Conheady, and I think it's certainly a concern. The level of detail of plans for the initial stage required for planning application, for funding applications, is certainly very onerous from a financial point of view. And for people who might not be aware, Delwip is state government department, and those reserves and halls are on Crown land, so they certainly do need some support, that's for sure. Is there anything further, councillors, on this item? I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.3 is contract number 2022022, design and construct bridge deck replacements at various sites. And I'll ask Mr. Woff to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, this report seeks to award the contract for the design and construction of bridge deck replacements at 4 sites within the Shire: Warnong Road, Four Tree Road, Blind Creek Road and 8 Mile Lane. 2 tenders were received for the design and construction of the bridge replacements. A panel comprising appropriately qualified and experienced council staff have undertaken an evaluation of the tender submissions in accordance with council's procurement policy and with the specified criteria. The recommended tenderer, DC Projects, is an experienced bridge construction contractor who several years ago, in conjunction with council, successfully replaced the old timber deck with precast concrete panels at the Thornton Road Bridge in South Murrumbidgee. The contract for the design and construction of bridge replacements at various sites has been tendered and evaluated in accordance with the policy and evaluation criteria, and it is considered that the best overall value for council is provided from the tender submitted by DC Projects Pty Limited. And councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Woff. Would someone like to move this recommendation? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder? Councillor Beard, thank you. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that we accept the officer's recommendation in its entirety. The contract is to replace the ageing, deteriorating wood decking with concrete decking on Warnong Road Bridge, Four Tree Road Bridge, Blind Creek Road Bridge and 8 Mile Lane Bridge. The 2 tender submissions have been put before a qualified and experienced panel who have scored DC Projects the highest and should therefore be awarded the contract to upgrade the aforementioned 4 bridges. It is pleasing to note DC Projects has worked well with Corangamite Shire in the past and has come highly recommended for works on bridges in our neighbouring Shire, the Colac Otway. Somewhat concerning though is the budget shortfall of around 400k, but the fact remains that these bridges upgrades are a must, and a variation to the budget will be made as part of the mid-year budget review. With the increase in construction costs being due to COVID, I would note that the importance of this trend should not be underestimated in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, and thank you, Madam Mayor, and I concur with what my fellow councillors just said before. I think it's important, and I thank the officers for the report and the work that goes into getting it to us here to make these decisions, but it is an implication, a huge implication, that we're looking at a budget shortfall which was unforeseen, and it's probably just to put a notice out there, I guess, to our ratepayers and community members that this won't be the first and certainly not the last time we're going to see this type of unfortunate implication occur, because anyone out there who knows who's been going through COVID, like everybody else there, materials are just going through the roof, and that's right across the board. So as much as we try our hardest to get the best value for money, we also still need to think about the quality of the work, the workmanship and the guarantee that the work is actually going to get done. And safety first and foremost. Yes, there's going to be budget blowouts, and we just have to manage that. our CEO raised that, we talked about it today earlier in briefing, that this certainly probably won't be the last time we see this occur. And I guess coming into budgets, as we call it, budget season, like our pre-season for the budget finals, I guess it's something that we need to really keep our finger on the pulse with and be mindful that projects like this are going to, this way, as I said, won't be the last time we're possibly going to have to be looking at implications like this. So, but it's really important work. The bridges need this work, and yeah, it's just unfortunate that we're looking at that shortfall. But yeah, certainly appreciate the recommendation and support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, is there any further comment on this item? All in favour? Carried. Item 9.4 is the voluntary winding up of the Corangamite Regional Library Corporation. Mr. Woff, can you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. In early 2021, both Corangamite Shire Council and Moyne Shire Council resolved to pursue a new shared service library management model with direct service delivery operated by each council to commence in July 2022 and confirm a 12-month transitional period from Corangamite Regional Library Corporation commencing 1 July 2021. A consequence of moving to that shared services model for the management and delivery of library services is the winding up of the Corangamite Regional Library Corporation. And as members of the current Corangamite Regional Library Corp, formal resolution is required from both Moyne and Corangamite Shire to agree to the dissolution of that body in accordance with the regional agreement. At its meeting in December, the board of Corangamite Regional Library Corp discussed processing and timing in relation to winding up that corporation, and resolved that we'd look to do that by June 2022. Moyne Shire Council have also been briefed earlier this month and will consider a similar report and recommendation at their ordinary meeting in February. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Woff. Councillors, recommendation there to support the dissolution of the Corangamite Regional Library Corporation as of the 30th of June 2022. Just like to say it's almost a bit of a sad day because we've been part of the corporation for many, many years and partners with Moyne Council as well as Warrnambool City and Colac Otway. So obviously with Colac Otway and Warrnambool leaving the corporation and Corangamite and Moyne moving to the new shared service model, as Mr. Woff mentioned, and we'll be discussing that in the next item. I think we've got good years ahead in our library services. Someone like to move that recommendation, please? Councillor Cole, seconder. Councillor Beard. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's not a lot to say about this. Is procedural, really, but the library is a fairly major part of the community and brings a lot of enjoyment and pleasure to a lot of people. And it's a sad day to see it go in one way, but it's going to keep going in another way. So it really is just procedural. The library will still be there and still functioning. So I'm happy to support.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and I know that you're probably going to talk more to this because this is certainly, I would like to think, your baby, but I know the amount of work that our Director Book Club, who isn't with us tonight, who is an apology, but also Mr. Woff, have been putting into this behind the work alongside the board that have got us to this point. I mean, this just hasn't happened in the last 6 months. This has been something that's taken a couple of years, knowing that there was going to be an exodus of the current, of the previous board, the previous corporation members, and then we're the last two men standing being Moyne and Corangamite, which is a great fit because we all work cohesively so well. We have a great working relationship and still want the best for our libraries in our community. So I have no doubt going forward that even though we're giving the green light, we're potentially giving the green light tonight to proceed with the winding up process, that it will be bigger and better for our Corangamite residents when it comes to our libraries. And I want to thank you too, Amy, for the work you've put in behind the scenes, because I know it has been a very stressful process of what the layout was going to look like for our libraries. And I just hope everyone out there that's possibly listening or will read this will be rest assured that everything's been done in the best interests of our Corangamite residents. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Is there any further comments on the winding up? I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. As one door closes, another one opens. Mr. Woff, I'll get you to introduce. Where am I going? Item 9.5, the Library Shared Services Agreement.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mayor. This report presents the Corangamite and Moyne Library Shared Services Agreement for Council's consideration and delegation of authority to the CEO for signing. The proposed shared service model provides for one council to provide back-of-house operations and technical expertise to manage and support each of the council's library service. The hub will be operated by Moyne Shire Council from the Mortlake Library. Each council will maintain direct responsibility for management and cost of operations and staff for its own library branches and outreach services. A library management group will be established to oversee the shared service provision, while state government funding for recurrent operations of library services will remain. Council will subscribe to the statewide library management system through Public Libraries Victoria, which provides free access to around about 3 million collection items across 150 or so branches that participate within Victoria. The library service agreement has been drafted and reviewed, with the initial term of the agreement being set for 3 years, with 2 further consecutive options of 3 years. The transition to shared library services with Moyne Shire Council is progressing and requires Council's authorisation to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the signing of the formal agreement for the shared services and responsibilities. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Woff, and thank you, Councillor Beard, for your comments on that last item. The libraries certainly are very close to my heart, and it has been a very difficult last couple of years, but as you mentioned, Ms. Brooklove and Mr. Woff have been working really hard behind the scenes, as well as Moyne staff. And I really want to compliment and thank the corporation staff. Mr. Graham Shield is Chief Executive Officer, and he's led us through the winding up, or the process leading through to the winding up, and then going forward with the new hub, which will be operated out of the Mortlake Library in the short to medium term until we make other arrangements. But it's a really exciting time. Corangamite Shire has 5 static libraries. We did have an outreach service which serviced Skipton, but we're now looking at establishing a hub, a book hub in Skipton. We've received funding for that, which is fantastic. And while perhaps our shelves might be a little bit emptier at this year because of the collection having to be split between Colac, Otway and Warrnambool, I can assure our library users and potential library users that we have an extensive e-book collection, audiobook collection, and becoming members of Public Libraries Victoria, we will have access to over 3 million items from 150 library branches across Victoria. So it's exciting times ahead, and I really encourage everyone out there who is not a member of the library to visit your local library, have a look and see what's on offer. As I've said before, the e-books themselves, people who are continually downloading and paying for e-books, a lot of them are on the library system, and you don't even have to go into the library. You can do it all on your device that's sitting at home and download the books. So please, Council pays a lot of money for library services, but I think they're incredibly important, particularly for our early years, as well as social connection and inclusion for people in our later years. So we really need to keep them, and the best way to keep them is to use them. So I encourage everyone to get out and join your local library. Councillors, there's a recommendation that the CEO has the authority to sign the shared library agreement. Someone like to move that, please? Councillor Hickey, and seconded by Councillor Conheady. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a exciting time and exciting collaboration between Moyne and Corangamite Shires, and to also have access to Public Libraries Victoria to access the amount of books that are around. I, for one, haven't been a member of the library, but my New Year's resolution is to go and join up. I believe it's cost-free, so that's the kind of figure I like. So I'll be definitely going ahead and doing that at the next available opportunity, and I encourage everybody who's in our shires to go along and make themselves known to the shire too. There's a vast array of information that is still available there electronically and in hard copy. And this will certainly mean, this collaboration will certainly mean that we're staying ahead of the game and being able to provide a very, very good library service to both our shires.
Thanks, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Conheady.
Porter here. Thank you, Madam Mayor. There has been a lot of work, as you described, Madam Mayor, that's gone into this agreement to ensure that Corangamite and Moyne Shires can deliver the best possible library service to our communities. And this particular arrangement is an example of shared service where we can work together with a neighbouring council to achieve real efficiencies and develop a very high level of service standards, and also provide a diverse collection of books and materials, e-books and the like of what was just described to all our library users. So it's given us scope to do a lot more of that than we have in the past. The agreement does allow for entry of new members if that is deemed to be of value in the arrangements. But I'm really proud that this whole process, for our communities at least, has unfolded to this point almost without skipping a beat. Like the library services have been available through this whole period. And I want to thank everyone who's worked so hard to reach the agreement. There's quite a lot of detail in it. And also for the planning and the work that is yet to be done on the transition in the next 6 months to implement the new model. So thank you. I'm very pleased to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Conheady. Is there anything further, councillors? All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, does anyone have other business that they'd like to raise at this evening's meeting? Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just more of a statement with possibly a request at the end of it. So the topic is on tyres in the wild. As many of you would be aware, as of the 31st December 2021, Australia has banned the export of whole tyres. There's concerns that there could be illegal dumping as a result. Now, from the 27th of October to the 10th of December 2021, in one of the busiest times of the year for the farmers, DWAP conducted a survey on the number of and the uses of waste tyres on farms and how farmers manage the environmental risks from the use of these waste tyres. The survey will be used to determine if requirements for waste tyres on farms under the Environmental Protection Regulations 2021. This was posted up on the Victorian Government's Engage website with very little further information. And I've since received some very real concerns from farmers regarding the new EPA controls that would further restrict the use of the whole tyres for silage stacks. If the use of whole tyres on farms for silage stacks is banned, there could be significant financial impacts for our farmers. We need to be reassured that this long-standing farming activity can continue, but also that there is no cost shifting to farmers who have reused and retained these tyres on farm, often for a number of years. It is not appropriate that the legacy costs of disposing of these tyres be borne by farmers, especially given that they were received in a time when using old tyres in this way was allowed. The outcomes of the survey from the late last year have not been made available, so I'm unable to confirm if the rules are planned to be changed or have indeed already been changed. Therefore, my request is that Council investigate this issue to ensure farmers are not financially penalised for the reuse of whole tyres on their silage stacks. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vogel. So what exactly are we asking the officers to investigate? Or
yes, to look further into this, to dig deep and look underneath the legislation and see if they're changing determinations and make sure farmers aren't left holding the can at the end of the day with a whole heap of tyres that they're liable for, which they've been using, just as a point of that's how you do it. So if they're changing legislation, they need to think it through. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogel. So perhaps if we have a motion along the lines of that we ask the CEO to investigate and research the outcomes of the survey and the potential ramifications for
Yeah.
farmers. So-
If you'd like, Madam Mayor, I'm just requesting that we can have the officers to look
To look
further
into
into it.
Okay, that's fine. If you're happy to move that, someone like to second it? Councillor Cole, thank you. Do you have anything further you want to ask and speak on this, Councillor Cole?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Vogels has spoken pretty well on it. It is an important thing. Farmers have been using tyres as a means of keeping a lid on things for a long, long time, so to speak, and they're an efficient way of doing it. And tyre people are quite happy to give them tyres to the farmers to get rid of them because they had a problem getting rid of them, and farmers needed them. So it's a bit of a shift in blame, really. So yeah, that's an important thing for farming. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cole. Is there anyone else wants to comment on this item? Councillor Beard?
Yeah, sorry, just a question, Madam Mayor, sorry, to Councillor Vogels. I'm assuming if there hasn't already been a change in legislation like that, I mean, you're querying about the price coming, there being a price implication on farmers, we would actually be advocating for the retaining of that practice, wouldn't we? From what you're saying is it's a good practice that's been getting done for years and years. I know multiple friends and that use them for their stacks as well. I'm assuming that's something that we could apply, that potentially if we find out whatever's going on, that we may need to be advocating to retain that practice.
So like I would say, across Victoria, there's not just thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands, there's millions of tyres out there. And just making sure if they're going to drop the bomb on these tyres to go, that they need to think it through. Now, when this is just what people are requesting from me, they're hitting me up for information, and I said we've got no information, and I'm just requesting that the officers look into it and see if they can get us some decent information rather than just hearsay and
Speculation.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Thank you, Councillor Vogels. So, councillors, what we're doing is asking the staff to have a look into this issue and what the ramifications are, where it's up to, and what we can do to advocate on behalf of our farmers if need be. Absolutely, Councillor Vogels. We're happy to vote on this, councillors. All in favour? It's carried. Any other business, councillors? No? If not, I'll take this opportunity to thank everybody at home who has been watching and to remind them that tomorrow being Australia Day, there is a celebration of our volunteers in Cobden tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. If you're coming along, please wear a hat, bring sunscreen, and we hope you enjoy the day. But in the meantime, thank you, councillors and officers, and good evening.